There is obviously a great death happening on the planet. And it is obvious to all who are awake that this great death could potentially lead to the extinction of the human race and a great deal of the creation. There are many sober, brilliant scientists who are now saying that we could very well be extinct by 230 or 240 unless we make a radical shift in our way of being and doing everything. These people aren't crystal wavers. They don't have fancy Sanskrit names and just spew out doom and gloom to try and shock us. These are people who truly know where we are and how everything is at stake. So it is extremely important that you and I build a spiritual container strong enough to be able to face this outrageous reality and face it humbly without being paralyzed by it, so that through grace we may be given the inspiration and the power and the intensity and the stamina and the peace and the energy to start doing what I believe is the only possible solution, the only possible way through, which is to put the love of God into action on every level, urgently, wisely, calmly, and with great passion. The future of humanity is in your and my choices and hands. There is a great death happening, and it is overwhelmingly dangerous, but it is not all that is happening. There is also a very amazing birth that is taking place right now, partly as a response to this death, but also partly as a great blessing from the divine, from the mother side of the divine that knows exactly how crazy, psychotic, paralyzed, devastated her children are, and is pouring down enormous passion of inspiration on the planet to help humanity to go to the next evolutionary level, to be an embodied divine human race, humbly working with the Father, Mother to co-create a new world. And the force that is entering the human race now to help us all birth with her and him a new world is what I call sacred activism. Sacred activism. What I have noticed is that mystics tend to be addicted to transcendence, addicted to getting out of the body, addicted to their mystical experiences, addicted to a vision of enlightenment that says that enlightenment is detachment from the world and utter embrace of the light. This is a fatal narcissism, because the real point of mystical experience is to give you direct insight into the force of love that creates reality, to imbue you with that force, and to give you the passion to serve that force in reality, to bring its truth to every kind of power and every kind of realm. And I have noticed that activists, as they are addicted to burnout, to indignation, to blame. They're noble people. They've had the guts to turn up when so many people have preferred comfort and sleep while the world burns, but their hearts are unhealed, and they cannot effect the great changes that they so long to effect from an unhealed psyche. So you have the two most sensitive and two most vibrant groups of people crippled by a subtle narcissism. What is the way through? The good news is that if you bring together the best of the mystic with the best of the activist, if you bring together the passion for God that is the great hunger and calling of the mystic with the passion for justice that is the great hunger and calling of the activist, if you bring together the golden fire of both, what happens when you bring the fire of the passion for God with the fire of the passion for justice together is that when they come together, they birth a third fire, which is a quantum leap forward, which is nothing less than the fire of the Father-Mother, a fire that is at once peaceful and passionate, utterly transcendent and utterly grounded in reality, and totally focused on changing the systems of cold evil that are now destroying the race and destroying the creation. This is the source of a wholly new kind of power. Wherever I go in the world, I'm asked one question by people who really know the reality and the truth of what I'm saying. And I have to say to you, there are millions of people who know the truth of what I and others are saying. Millions waking up. Millions realizing that if we really go on believing that the governments and the corporations are going to change this situation, we will be sitting watching reality shows when the last tree burns down and the last fish dies in the polluted seas. People who understand that the future is about a grassroots revolution, loving, non-violent, but very powerful, that really says to all the systems in place, we have finished with you. You are no longer useful. There is a new world calling to be built, and we are ready with all of our flaws and follies and shadows. We are ready to come together, and we're ready to risk everything, because everything now is at stake. But wherever I go, I'm always asked one question. What can I do? What can I do? And the question is an urgent one, because we're all summoned. Every single human being is now being summoned by the divine to contribute their gifts to this great revolution of love in action. No one is exempt from this challenge. And when you cross the waters of death, you're not going to be asked, how many books did you write? How much money did you screw out of a dying system? How many yachts did you buy? Did you enjoy your painting collection of Kandinsky? And you're not going to be asked that. The one thing you will be asked is, what did you do while the world was burning? What did you actually care enough about, beyond yourself, beyond your comfort zone, to really tremblingly stand up for and do something about when the whole world was burning? What did you do? What did you care about? What did you offer? That'll be the question that all of us will be asked to cross over from a time like this. And it's a question that you and I who hear it now must rise now to meet with the fullness of our hearts, with the brilliance of our minds, and with the empowered energy of our sacred bodies, because everything depends on how you and I answer that question in our lives. When people ask me, what can I do? I say, follow your heartbreak. Follow your heartbreak. We've had a whole 30 years of people being told to follow their bliss. And what it has created is a massively narcissistic spiritual movement whose absolute masterpiece was that horrific film, The Secret, which basically says to everybody, follow your bliss, get God as a servant to serve you up great dollops of your bliss, and just go forward. Everything will be taken care of. This is psychotic lunacy at a time when, if we don't truly follow our heartbreak at the homeless, our heartbreak at the abused children, our heartbreak at the Syrian situation in which millions of people are potentially in danger of dying, our heartbreak at what I'm going to be talking about, the genocide of the animals. If we don't have the courage to connect with that immense suffering that is in all of our hearts about the potential of the world being destroyed, if we don't connect with that heartbreak, allow it to break our hearts open, allow it to guide us to what we truly want to do about that heartbreak, we are going to die out. Because the way forward is not the way of the mind. The mind can only create systems of dissociation. Can't you see we're in these mind concentration camps and they are killing human beings and they're killing nature and they're killing animals? What's needed now are constructions that are born out of the inspiration of the Sacred Heart. And the Sacred Heart is always both totally broken and totally whole. That's the divine heart. And you have one, and I have one, and it's when you claim your shattered, open, divine heart and say, from this heart, I will do everything I can with all the resources, all the intelligence, all the chutzpah, all the wonderful hair that I have to make a difference. It's when you say that you align yourself with the great evolutionary will of the divine, and you turn up as a lover, warrior, midwife of the new, and the divine desperately needs you to turn up and co-create with it a new planet.